Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. This is part 2 of my conversation that I had with Edward Dench. This is where we get all the fun stuff involved. I'll give you a little treat and tell you that Ed does some fantastic impressions in this one, so watch out for those. So let's have a look and see what Ed's got to tell us in part 2 of Cookiecast. So earlier you were talking about you like your YouTube stuff. You got any YouTube recommendations? I know you mentioned some stuff at the time.
Yeah, so I do Outside Extra and Outside Xbox as two. They're just a group of gamers. They talk about 5 times this happened and 7 Easter eggs that you probably missed and things. Just videos like that. But they do some. They're a good balance of people. I quite like most of them. And a little scripted, but they've got a nice mannerism how they present. And I also do Dorkly, who I enjoy mostly for their Today in Nerd Histories, because they do these wonderful little talks about, 5 times of this and 7 times that's again. And I just find them interesting. I like this mostly because I tend to hear about games I've never played and think, oh, that sounds great. Oh, I like that. The interesting fact.
Friend of mine
they
was
do
saying
some great 8-bit animations that I recommend everyone go and have a look at. If you loved Sonic, they just completely take the piss out of it. You saw a few earlier. They're mocking everything about the generation of games we loved, and it's the things that you hated. So Mario can't go backwards. They acknowledge that fact and rip it apart at points. It's because there's a massive party going on behind him. Mario's actually just the dork nobody wanted around.
Friend of mine was saying that lists are big on the internet.
Because people like 6 times this happened and 7 times that happened.
If you can do a top 5 X, then people will watch it because they're interested in stuff like that. And I mean, you proved that point earlier.
I can't help but watch them.
Here's 8 times this happened, 9 times that happened, and it's great because you know that video is going to be X amount of minutes. You can watch it in bite-sized chunks, and you can then go. Okay,
it gives you highlight level of things because sometimes they are specific. So it's 5 times Mass Effect let you down. I've never played any of the Mass Effects, but I understand it that Mass Effect 3 really upset the world.
I played
in so many levels.
I played the first one, loved it. Played the second one, and was just like, "What? Why did you take all the good stuff away?"
And then, like everyone else, I played the third one and felt robbed.
I found out that that there was a certain way that you could do Mass Effect 2 to get all of the crew when you went into the third one. Bought the third one, replayed the second one to try and get all the crew, and the game shafted me, and I had to keep playing the same bit over and over and over. Never played 3. It was still in the wrapper when I sold it.
It's one of those internet meme features that is more disappointing than the ending of Mass Effect 3. I never knew what it was, and 5 times this happened. They do features specifically on Mass Effect 3 and how much of a mineshaft it really was. And I like it because I get to find out about the worst things or the best things of things without necessarily having to do them, because I never got on with Bayonetta enough to play it all the way through, but I've learned plenty about it.
I do not get that. That game has such a humongous following. Second one.
It's notoriously difficult. Like Dark Souls, it's a very difficult game. It's kind of, if the difficulty of Dark Souls met the playability of Devil May Cry, but then you chuck in a really stupid camera system that no one can get along with, and that is what made Bayonetta.
I felt like I was living outside of the world when Bayonetta came along, because everyone's like, "This is the best game ever made," and I was like, "It's not. It's not a good game. What are you saying?" And everybody raved about it.
I owned it. I enjoyed the bit I played of it. I just couldn't get on with the camera, and eventually I lost my temper with it, so I just stopped playing it. And I think it might just be that I'm not really overjoyed about a half-dressed woman with guns in her heels. Maybe I'm just... it's the wrong side of sex appeal to sell to me.
Yeah, I just did.
Devil May Cry, every time you release a new one, I'm going to buy it without question. Yep. Love those games. Yeah, even the second one, which we don't talk about.
I have bought and played and
rebought. Yeah.
The
HD collection will be purchased eventually.
I own... I bought the HD collection. I own Devil May Cry 4 for the Xbox 360, and I rebought it for the PlayStation 4 when they redid the HD version, because Yeah, me and Devil May Cry get on well. The DMC one was a little...
I think they did a great job with that. As a remaster and a complete remake, I loved the control system, the fluid nature between all your weapons and the combinations. I think they did a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Because it was so different to the original, but it kept the nice gameplay features of the original. It was
something that I was kind of hoping that they would do another one.
There's still time, let's face it.
Yeah. I mean,
there's always time.
Yeah. So... I want to quickly ask you about. It might seem a little random to you, but music.
I've got an arrayed taste in music. My phone is filled with country, bits of classic. I have some lovely sea shanty music.
Really?
Blackbeard's Tea Party. I'm going to advertise them on this now. This is an advertising moment. Blackbeard's Tea Party, local band in York, regularly play, but you'll also find them busking, and my God, they're a good bunch. Fantastic music, brilliant to watch. I mean, the lead singer is not the greatest singer in the world, and if he ever hears this, I apologise, but you've got such a charisma on stage. My God, I'm not that way inclined, but I would. Let's be fair about this. When you are on stage, the way your hips move, it's just stunning. He plays his accordion, and his hips move as fluidly as the accordion does. It's just a stunning display. But they are greatly entertaining.
The reason that music was on my list to ask you is the number of times, because I generally bother you quite a lot of work with very random sort of, hey, I want to do this, it's an impossible thing, but can you make it happen, sort of questions. And the number of times that I've ended up coming to you and you'll be, bobbing
plugged
away
into something.
Plugged into some form of music. And it's always different. But it's always different genres, different types.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like death metal, the next minute it's like dance music, the next minute it's country, the next minute it's something. And I'm like...
for anything and everything. There is bits of every music I enjoy. And it might just be because I'm not musically talented at all. I can't sing. I'm pretty sure I'm tone deaf. I don't do an instrument. But I can appreciate the better side of every bit of music. I think it's probably the benefit of not knowing the difference. We went to go listen to a band the other day. It was one of us from work, her band, Weekend Recovery. And yeah, they were fine and the group performed. But I didn't care much for the first band at all. Quite frankly, I thought every single song they sang sounded the same. But one of the colleagues at work who does do music, and he is interested in music and he reviews music, went along. And when I said this, he went, "You're talking shit." Okay, fair enough. But they just screamed a lot. No, they didn't. They were brilliant. Really? It sounded like somebody stamped on his foot 5 times. Oddly enough, in the same point in every single song. I just don't see it. So they were lost on me. Absolutely lost. But Ed thought they were brilliant and they had real merit, and I didn't see it. Absolutely baffling.
The thing about music is it's each to their own. And me and a mate were in town today, and
most people tend to have their own preference, though. So you'll sort. I don't think I've ever met anybody who will happily listen to dubstep and then start bursting along to Moana. I've just got a great enjoyment of certain sound. And I don't know if it's the music or the noise in that music. There's a wonderful song I like by a group called Bellstop, and yet everything else they've done is complete trash. But they do one song called Trouble, and it's fucking great. It's just got this great beat that's perpetually going through it on sort of a drum noise. A bloke called Michael Jordan did a similar song, which just had this lovely little beat line in it I really enjoy, but everything else he's done is trash. I don't know what it is. I find enjoyment in all bits of music, and it's just
which
I'd
is
love
nice
to peg it.
I think what's the saying? Music is subjective or something. Everybody has their own taste in music, and I feel
it's a good thing because let's face it.
If you said, "Oh, I really like this," and the person next to you says, "Well, that's interesting because it was awful," I don't think you can actually say that. Because
the problem is you can. I'm asked about that band to listen to, and I said I think they were terrible. Every song sounded the same to me, but Ed can obviously pick up on the difference of this. He can hear whatever it is that separates that first set of screaming to that second set of screaming. And I think you're valid in saying, well, that's weird because they're terrible. I want the person I'm saying that to correct me, because my response is they were terrible. I need people like Ed to tell me, well, you're wrong. There is merit to that Fair enough.
But they were terrible.
I may not be able to tell it. That is what I want to hear. They are actually good, are they? Fair enough. Well, hopefully they'll progress. I need to be told when I'm wrong, or whether there is an alternative to my view. I need to be correct.
Me and a mate of mine were in town this morning, and we were going to all the charity shops and looking through the vinyl.
As you went and bought that bloody LP player.
Yeah, I did accidentally buy it.
You've got yourself into a problem now.
I can't.
There's a lovely shop down Gillygate specialises in them. We sold loads of the grandfathers to him.
I went there, they were closed.
Oh, a shame.
I ended up in HMV paying.
Because if you're lucky, you might still have the Muppet Show on LP, and my God, that is a good listen.
Wow. But it was the fact that we were looking at the same thing. We were looking at records and stuff, but we were looking at completely different things. And it was like, he's into more sort of, he will literally listen to anything.
I think it's a universal in music is the methods of music are consistent. I mean, I don't think anyone is going to sit there and say, God, MP3, it's the way forward. I think everybody who has music has an appreciation for the sounds that come from LP.
Yeah.
It sounds completely different. Whether it's classical or modern, everything that comes out these days gets put into an LP format at some stage purely because it sounds so uniquely different. It's like Polaroid pictures. You cannot replicate them. I know you can put a funny white border on any picture you make, but you cannot actually replicate how a Polaroid looks. They just never look quite the same. They don't have that character.
Would you be surprised if I told you one of the records I bought from a charity shop today for $1.99 was Dean Martin?
I'm not actually sure what Dean Martin is.
He's like a crooner, like Frank Sinatra. So he was a member of the Rat Pack.
Right. So I don't know names.
But then I also bought some Beethoven.
That does surprise me. It does. I can't picture you enjoying classical at all.
It's strange. So it was a thing a little while ago, and I can't think which. It was a game that had driving in. Now, part of me wonders if it was the most recent Grand Theft Auto, or part of me wonders whether it was an actual driving game. But I was listening to. In fact, it was Forza Horizon. So you get music stations, and you've got your damp.
They actually do a good array of mix, and they have a
that.
classic channel.
So you go through, and I found that I was bored by listening to their version of what they thought was metal. I was bored of listening to like the pop, the dance, and all that. But they had a classical channel, which a lot of these games, a lot of that have driving in, give you the option of a classical channel. And I found that more times than not, after I've played a game for a while, a game like that for a while, my radio choice, you go, well, I don't want to listen to this because I've heard it. I don't want to listen to that because I've heard it. I often end up on the classical channel.
It's not. The thing is, it's dull and it can drone on. I can't abide opera. I think that's one thing I would definitely always say I don't like. But there's something very pleasing about classical music at points, especially certain pieces. I don't know if you ever watched Fantasia as a child, but I did, and I think that's probably why I quite enjoy my classical at points, because there's a lingering joy for it.
My sister had it on VHS.
I'm trying to think of his name. The actor in Silence of the Lambs, Keanu Beans. I've forgotten his
Anthony
name.
Hopkins.
Thank you. He does a bit of composing music, and he did a wonderful bit called The Waltz Goes On. If you YouTube it later when you're bored, you'll find it. They actually live present it, and they did. It's a really nice piece, but it's quite nice to see his reaction to hearing it played properly, because he does a bit tearful at the end of it all. But it's actually a really nice little piece. It's got these nice cheery sections. It's got these little lower solemn bits in it. It's a really good little piece.
I always find it interesting when, especially actors, they all have other interests. I saw a thing recently about like
it's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Like famous people that are also artists, and I never had a lot of time for him, but I saw some of Michael Jackson's artwork, and he was a very good artist.
So was Hitler. I was just saying, it's not necessarily a good thing. Hitler was renowned as a relative painter. Just saying.
Yeah.
You read into that what you like.
So, what nicely follows on to a conversation about music is a little section that I like to talk to people about, diets and exercise.
My diet and exercise consists of smoking, drinking coffee and walking to work. I'm not really what you'd call a prime healthy person, and yet I've had like 2 sick days in the last 10 years. I'm a medical anomaly on this front. I don't diet. I eat like a horse. I smoke excessively, and I survive mostly off coffee during the day, and yet I'm a relative specimen of health. It's quite sickening.
I had a conversation with somebody the other day who was saying that their diet, and I think they weigh 56 kilos or something. So then,
what's that relative to me? I'm about 12 stone.
I think they weigh about 8 stone.
Right.
And I was like, so come on, what's the secret? And they said stress, anxiety,
I really
and
hope
coffee.
you're going to say bulimia.
They was like,
what's the trick? Vomiting.
Stress, anxiety, and coffee. And I was like, okay.
I could see that. I could believe that.
This coffee diet you're on, give me some pointers.
Stop putting milk and syrup in it. Start drinking it black. In the quantities I do.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can ever get that far. There's a theory that if you drink a good cup of coffee, what is an actual good cup of coffee, you do not require anything else. And there have been situations...
Is this all day, or...?
There's been situations I've been in where I've got a coffee and I'm like, oh, they haven't put syrup in this, I'll never be able to drink it. And I've actually drunk it and gone... That must have been a good cup of coffee because I managed to drink it.
Yeah, it's a bitterness thing. I mean, coffee has an array of different strengths of flavour. It's to any smokers out there, if you're a regular for a Lambert and Butler, you'll turn your nose up when they offer you a Marlboro. It can be the same with your coffees. Starbucks, Costa, Nero, they all taste completely different. Mm-hmm. As a purchasable brand, Nero is the nicest coffee I found. It's got a real good rich flavour, but it's not over bitter. You could drink that virtually all day.
Yeah.
Costa is nice. It's got that rough edge. I'm not a big lover of Starbucks. I've just never have been. I find it just too bland. But I think that's why they do so well. Most of the world doesn't get on with the bitterness of coffee. I mean, I carry my Nescafe around with me all day because I'll go through 8 or 9 of them while I'm at work. Quite happily, every hour I will refill my mug. I couldn't afford to drink all the coffee I want to drink if it came from Costa or Nero's or anywhere. It would cost me an arm and a leg.
I remember the days you and I would sit in the ground floor of Welly Row in the booths.
And we'd just take it turns to buy the bloody stuff. It costs you a fortune.
Yeah.
I've got a mortgage now. I can't afford Costa.
It was costing us a little bit of money sitting there for all those days. I think we were there for a week at one point, and it was like, I'm not going to be eating for the rest of the month because I bought a couple of cups of coffee.
No, I don't. Let's say, as far as a diet goes, I think caffeine and any sort of warm drink is a good thing to help with hunger and things. I don't think it's a viable replacement because, in the same way, juicing can be a bad thing if overdone. Mm-hmm. It's not for everyone. And my dietary needs have evolved from being an 11-year-old smoker who had a choice between dinner money and cigarettes, and weirdly enough, I chose cigarettes. So I've adapted very well to being able to wake up at 6 a.m, press on for an entire day and not eat till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But I do top myself up with an awful lot of caffeine. The most exhilarating bit of your drink on a morning is the hot factor, and I think that actually does something inside you to really balance out hunger pains.
There are a series of theories about what you should start your day with, and one of them is a
hot drink.
Hot water with lemon.
Yeah, and it's because the caffeine content in most freeze-dried coffee is actually minimal.
Yeah.
Because the freeze-drying process just nullifies a lot of it. It's the hot drink aspect that actually wakes you up. It invigorates your body to perk up, to balance out that temperature, because your body can heat something up, but to cool it down, it has to work in a different way, and it makes everything alert up. So I think there's a big benefit to hot drinks over a day in that sense. After that, I walk a hell of a lot. I don't really exercise. I don't jog. I don't go to the gym. I walk everywhere. I don't drive. I don't have a bike, but I walk miles a day.
You see, when I was sort of between 16 and 19, I actually used to live around the corner from here. And when I say around the corner, I mean it was probably a couple of miles that way. I used to live like sort of down there and round and way out in the distance. But that was my version of exercise because I used to walk to town. So from all the way over there to
I've
town.
done that for decades.
Yeah, and I did that for a long time, and there was that kind of, I could eat kind of pretty much what I wanted because I was walking 14, 15 miles a day because I'd walk to college. I'd walk to like all the way from there to college and then back again. You know, I only walked 15 miles a day and then I'd pop into town for like drinking and stuff like that. So I'd get the exercise that way. So you've actually preempted a couple of things I was going to talk to you about.
Yes. That's how you do a good show.
That is. So
know where you're going.
Coffee.
God, yes.
Could you live without it?
I dread to think what I'd replace it with. I mean, crack, maybe?
I was going to say it'd have to be some kind of hardcore.
I was going to say, I can't take away a vice and not get another one. I mean, a mother always said she gave up cigarettes and took up Kit Kats. I don't want to be that guy. Because to replace my coffee would probably kill me. I mean, I could drink tea. I like my tea. When you say replace coffee, is it the coffee you're replacing or general hot drinks? Is it caffeine as a staple?
Ever seen you drink a cup of tea?
I have Lapsang Souchong, Lady Grey, Sunshine Grey. I'll make you one after this if you want.
I don't do tea.
You might like the Lady Grey's Sunshine, slightly citrus. They're lovely. I recommend you drink them black, but it's the black tea has a bit of a dry feature to it. It depends what you like. I don't mind a cup of tea, but it wouldn't replace coffee. You know, I might have to take it with a kick to the knackers every time. Something just to, you know, take me away from the pain I'm currently feeling at the loss of my coffee. I don't think I could live without it easily.
How much of your productivity would you put down to the amount of caffeine that you put into your system?
Minimal. I don't think coffee is what keeps me motivated to do things. I have completely different motivations to why I work. I have to be doing something, anything. I don't just sit and watch these YouTube things or telly. I will be doing something while I'm doing that, whether it's learning, reading, or browsing something on the internet. I'm perpetually doing something alongside it. I just can't stop. It's most to keep me out of my own head. So yeah, take away mental issues, and then I'll lull into a slow sense of depression.
I'll invite you into my. I said last night. I did a podcast last night, recorded one where I said that I'm probably going to at some point do a mental health series of podcasts because I imagine most of the people I've had on already, and certainly
I think we all have our own little aspects that we'd love to voice. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you know,
there's nothing quite like talking about your own issues. Let's face it. We all like to be reminded of those. We haven't got a shortage. Yeah, my productivity is purely on a basis that I don't want to have to think. And focusing on anything else is the best solution in the world. I mean, I'll invite you to nip into the other room and you'll find the bed's pristinely made at the moment. And it's because if I have any say in the matter, I will do it. It's just because I need something.
That's fair.
I can't help myself. If I had my way, I'd be a very, very, very clean person. But this room is not a shining example.
So the other thing that you are well known for is your love of smoking.
I don't know why you'd say that, because I sit here holding my cigarette. And throughout this recording, they've probably heard the rustle of a packet and the click of a lighter several few times. Yes, I am a big, big fan of smoking from any method. God, I do enjoy it. It's my favourite hobby. They say it's an addiction, I could quit at any time, but you know, if I quit smoking, you've got to give up your hobby, whatever that might be these days. No more gaming. That's it. I'll give up smoking. You have to stop computing.
Of all the smoking that you do, because you partake in all of the smoking. You enjoy a nice cigar.
I will take a cigar when I'm offered them. I don't have a cigar as a regular feature, but I do like them. And I have my pipes which come out here and there every now and then when I fancy just a long sit down for 40 minutes. Andy's staring at 3 of them beside us currently. I bought a special tobacco just for the occasion of our last evening out, where it was cherry and ice cream. I think it was supposed to be flavoured.
Oh, it was
lovely smell, but
yeah, it was delicious.
A little bit too moist, like most.
So, which is your favourite? I mean,
cigarettes. I don't have to think about it. I enjoy the practice of all of them, but my cigarettes are the best thing. I like rolling them. I find it's a wonderful interlude during a meeting, keeps your hands busy. I like the smell of them. I like the fact I can do it blindfolded. I like the challenge of it. Sit there. I've got 5 minutes before I need to go out. I need to roll some. See if I can do 6 in 5 minutes. Here we go. It's a challenge.
Because you hand roll your cigarettes, but you don't use filters. You're
never used filters.
Non-filter man. Is there a reason?
It could be a death wish. It could be a perpetual need to be ill. It could just be that it takes all the flavour and strength away because I've never done it. When I was little and we started smoking, it was 10 decks of Lambert and Butlers for £2 a day. I mean, those were the days.
Those were the days.
Oh, when you could afford to smoke.
Yeah.
And that perpetuated into a 20-day habit very quickly.
I think
so between pot washing and dinner money, I managed to sustain myself on about 20 a day from the age of 15.
I think
I did quite well.
It's something like £10 for a packet of 20 cigarettes.
It is, because it's about 20 for my 50 grams of G&V, because back in the day, I transitioned into my tobacco purely because I couldn't afford to buy 20 decks a day. But it's 7 quid a day at that point.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this is getting a bit expensive. I'm going to move on to tobacco. Oh my God, I fell in love. But I just didn't bother adding to the expense by buying filters. I've just adapted to it, I think.
When I was smoking cigarettes and when it was...
I'm going to stop 1 second. I do feel it's important to say I don't condone other people smoking. I think it is a stupid habit that only I should do. And the world should basically fund my smoking as a public plea to make everyone else stop.
When I
Please
smoked,
continue.
when I smoked cigarettes, I used to spend £10 a day every single day because I would have to buy cigarettes every day and have to buy lunch every day. And cigarettes in those days were sort of circling the drain of the sort of the £5-6 kind of area, and that was getting a little bit too rich for my blood. And that was when I switched to tobacco.
Mother quit. So when it was £5 a packet, I'll stop there. No, it'd be too expensive. You bitch.
Yeah.
I
switched to tobacco, and then I was hand rolling my own, and that was fine. But then obviously the price just creeps up and up and up. And I had a series of things where I felt I couldn't walk out of a funeral where somebody I knew had died from cancer, and the first thing I did was roll a cigarette, light a cigarette. So it was that kind of. But now, I was in a shop and I heard somebody buy cigarettes and the person behind the counter say £10 something. It wasn't even £10, it was £10 something. And I was like, that can't be true. And I said to my sister, I was like, I'm sure I heard in a shop somebody saying £10 something for a packet of cigarette. And she looked it up on a supermarket website. I won't say which supermarket because I don't actually know which one. And she was like, yeah, £10.
Your price of your tobacco for me, as I say, my Gold Virginia costs me anything between £20 if I'm lucky. If I'm really lucky, I find somewhere still selling it 20, and £22.80 I think is the worst I've had.
Wow!
They're getting ridiculous, and I go for about 2 of those a week. So we're doing really well.
Smokes. I used to buy them at the...
God thank duty free when that gets offered.
Yeah, the £10 sort of range, and even then I was like, I'm not sure how much I could afford this much longer.
The problem is, it's the one... when I had to do my mortgage, they go through your expenses. How much do you cost this? Hobbies and everything else. And I actually put down my personal expenses. I counted for about 40 to 50 quid a week just for my smoking, just to safety net myself so I could smoke for at least the next 3 or 4 years, because it's getting to that state. I'm hoping to God I've paid off my mortgage by the time it gets any more than that, because I've got to have a tough choice between smoking and living. I think I'm going to choose smoking. I've got to be honest. I'll go under a bridge. We've got showers at work. It'll be fine.
So, if I said to you, what is your specialist subject?
I don't really have one.
No.
I'm useless in a quiz. We do every week. We go actually do a quiz machine now with a group at work, and I do idly stand there. My main talent to the quiz is pressing the screen. As long as people actually shout the number at me, because unfortunately I'm crap at reading, and shouting the answer, I occasionally hit the wrong one. Because they trick you with little spelling errors. It's just one of those fun things. But I come out with the occasional answer that I am aware of, and it's always random crap. But I don't specialise in any knowledge of any sort, I don't think. I'm quite good in the sense that I take in random crap, but know nothing about anything specific.
See, what I know from my experience is that you are to my knowledge, self-taught coder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether anybody can offer that up in a general knowledge quiz.
No, I mean, it's one of my favourite trick questions in the world that will turn up somewhere one day, and may as well educate it, is when is it acceptable for a parent to kill a child? And the answer is in coding.
Mm-hmm.
The parent is the housing, the child is the actual subroutine, and the actual house can kill it, stop it there and then, to prevent further issues with it itself, and you can actually get the error message, the parent has killed the child. I believe in the Python code language they do their own version of that, which is this parrot is dead. Because they modelled a lot of their coding language on Monty Python.
As I said, that's got to be a Monty Python.
It is. I didn't realise that when I found that one out a while back. I will learn anything. With my camera, I taught myself how to use it all, and I learned about Bach and aperture, exposure limits, and things like that. And I will learn anything myself. Give me a textbook and say you've got a month, you've got no hope. Get me a vague interest in it, and I'll learn how to do it. So web design, with my camera, I set up my own website ages back. I don't use it anymore because I don't do as much with my camera, but I went off and I learned about the different options. Between WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, things like that, and Joomla seemed the best option, so I learned more about that, and then I learned a little bit about HTML just so I could learn enough to be able to navigate through and change it. And giving you a hand today with your own website design things, it's purely because I wanted to know it, so I looked into it.
It's a handy tool.
And that's kind of where my specialist skill would lie, I think, really. If I get an idea in my head, I will find out how to do it. Whether it's juggling or card tricks, I've dabbled with all of them, and I perpetually in my work bag there is a pack of cards. I always have one on me because if I'm sat on my own and I'm bored, I will happily play solitaire or just sit there practicing how to slip hand a card up your sleeve. Anything I can be asked to learn.
I love a game of solitaire. And,
it's nice with a pack of cards.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's surprisingly useful to have a pack of cards. I think more people should carry them around because, let's face it, we've all been on a night out where something's gone to a lull and you just think, you know what, a quick game of poker with this lot and I could take them for a ride. Just for a bit of a giggle.
I think I'm hosting a poker night at some point.
I think we planned this at some stage. We suggested the idea of it.
And I kept going, all of my poker stuff moved into the loft a matter of weeks ago, and then typically from that point on,
everyone's been talking poker.
Talks poker. So it's like
it's odds law.
And then Leanne was like, like friends of ours are coming around to play poker, and I was like, really? Is that a thing? Yeah, I told you, but this is often a conversation we have. Yeah, I told you about it. Did you? I don't remember.
I moved all the stuff now.
And that was that. I went, so you're going to go up in the loft and get all the poker stuff? It's always
the way. I put my BDSM stuff away and suddenly all my friends wanted to come round again. It's a bit messed up. As soon as that whip goes in the drawer, suddenly everyone wants to come round for a freeway.
Those awful things that you put your toys away and then everybody...
Suddenly everyone wants a freeway. God. It is Sod's Law, and it's that weird thing again, you suddenly hear something, and it's a word you've never heard, and then suddenly it's all you're hearing. So I'm going to throw one out there for you for the world. It's juxtaposed, and I bet as soon as anyone hears that word, juxtaposed, to be opposite to something, is usually in say political arguments, you can be juxtaposed to someone else in that sense that you are completely opposite to them. But you are going to start hearing that now. It's actually in several songs, and you're just going to spot them out and go, oh God, he's ruined my life.
I believe it's referred to as the mattress theory. So,
this is things I like to know. Go on.
If you sleep in a bed and you're there and you're in your bed and you're lying there and you go, oh, my lovely bed, I love being in my bed, my lovely bed. And then one day you wake up and go, I had the worst night's sleep because, I'll tell you something, this mattress is lumpy. At that point in time, you will leave the house and see nothing but adverts for bed places, new mattresses. You'll hear one on the radio, you'll see one on TV, you'll see it on a bus, you'll see it on a billboard. They were all there the day before, but you didn't need a mattress the day before, so you never saw them.
I enjoy the weird one we've had recently, and it's probably all tied to what Facebook is currently being penalised for data mining. But in my age, my gaming computer is getting a little archaic. So I have been looking into all these things, and obviously in the top of the gaming bloody industry is Razer. So I have been talking about Razer a lot and mentioning it to the missus about, I could look into this one. And suddenly her Facebook has started pinging up to her Razer laptops and weird advertising things, all to do with that nature. And I can't help but think, my God, they were onto something with this on Mattress Effect.
Have you had a text conversation with her?
Not about that.
So,
only ever around her and her computer while it's on.
A little while ago, I had a conversation with somebody through text about the most random item you can imagine, which was a sling to carry a child in. I had a conversation through text because this person was like, I'm looking at this particular sling, and it gave the make and model of this sling. That evening, I was like, I've got a little bit of time to kill. I'll just pop onto Facebook, and so far down the first page, advert for that sling.
Yeah.
And I went...
Now, it makes sense. It makes sense on mine. I mean, I was Googling around and searching these things. Cookies will advertise to them for my advertising profile. This is what I've been searching, and I agree to that. That is what cookies do. They leave trails.
Not this cookie.
But her Facebook doing it is a little bit messed up, because I know for a fact I've never searched anything on that machine about it, and I've never done it under her name. So you do have to wonder.
Bad times.
Doesn't bother me personally. There's not much I have to hide, although I do want to test the theory by talking whips and chains, BDSM, anything like that. I want to see if Facebook suddenly starts putting up domineering gear on her Facebook just for fun. Because, I mean, it would raise so many questions more than it would answer.
Yeah, probably. So, I generally like to try and end, yes, we are coming to the end of the podcast. I generally try and end with something, a couple of little fun things. I will allow you the option to decline one of them.
But only one?
But only one.
So pick wisely.
Yes, so pick
Do
wisely.
I get pre-warning, or is this kind of like a Russian roulette thing where I pick first and then I get the real stumper?
Well, so... what I like to try and get people to do is their best worst impression, or their best impression, if they have a impression that they're known for. That can either be an accent or an impression. The person I was talking to yesterday gave a wonderful Michael Caine impression. It was fantastic. I won't tell you the person that did the bad
I'm guessing
impression.
it was Blow the Bloody Doors Off.
It was.
Because what else could it be?
Like I say, I won't tell you the person that brought me the Barney impression. That was a really good Barney impression. And by Barney, I mean the big purple dinosaur, not...
Hey kids, that guy.
Yeah, that one.
Sickening, sick pink bastard.
The guy who was in the suit
was a raging alcoholic and died.
No, he has done some kind of sex school recently.
Oh dear.
I heard it on another podcast.
I thought he was a horrendous alcoholic who died some years ago.
I'm sure that they're all horrendous alcoholics inside the suit. Do you have an impression that you are known for, and would you like to share it with us? Please be Arnie. Please be Arnie.
I don't think I have an Arnie. I could try an Arnie. Gollum's the easy one. Everyone can do Gollum. I mean, it's just one of those voices which, oddly enough, progress into Stitch very easily. I can do a vague version of Kermit the Frog, singing a song about if you were gay.
Oh, man. One of the things I do when I ask people to do an impression, I ask, have you got a Kermit the Frog impression?
Well, I'm a step ahead of the curve here, then. Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one to try and nail on there. I was mimicking Jack Nicholson the other day just for fun's sake. Just the way he speaks. It was a bucket list for watching that.
Give us your Gollum then.
The thieves, filthy little thieves, they stole it from us. We just wants it. Nice. Yeah, that's an impressive specimen. Taters? What's taters? Potatoes, boil and mash them, stick them in a stew. Lovely golden chips. Oh, come on, not even you could say no to that. Give it to us raw. Yeah, no, Gollum's the easy one. He progressed into Stitch very easily with his Aloha! Stitch. Man, Stitch. Stitch, go home now. Stitch. Ohana, family. Family, nobody's just left behind. Stitch was always easy after Gollum.
Yeah.
And if you hit into the Kermit, I don't actually know how good this one is these days. I just think very hard. Hi, Rod. Rod, you'll never guess what happened to me on the subway this morning. This guy was smiling at me and talking to me. Oh, that's really interesting. Yep, he was being real friendly. And you know what? I think he was coming on to me. I think he might have thought I was gay. So, why are you telling me this? Why should I care? I don't care. What'd you have for lunch today? There's no need to get all defensive about it. That's gone horribly wrong there. But it progresses into, if you were gay, that'd be okay. I mean, cause hey, I like you anyway. And I know that you... It can go on and on and on, that. I do know the whole song. So there's a couple.
All fantastic impressions. I thoroughly enjoyed those. So my final thing...
I'm kind of curious, what other impressions have you had? Has no one else done a Gollum for you, really?
No one's done a Gollum.
Wow.
Leanne gave me a fantastic Irish accent.
Okay, no, yeah.
Which weirdly enough, she'd been trying for weeks.
The problem with an Irish accent is if you don't know what one sounds like, they always sound good. And if you do, good God, they sound awful.
Yeah.
I had a problem with that.
I had the Barney, I had somebody just go, I don't know any impressions.
Oh,
and that was out.
Cop out. I had a lovely experience with an Irish impression when we first re-encountered Kaylee some years ago. I went to join her on a night out. And she sat downstairs with her work crew of, oh Christ, what's it called, on Gillygate, just outside the Museum Gardens in York. The name's gone from me. You go downstairs, it's a place where you work would regularly meet, not ZZ's, just across from it. Graduate.
Oh, yeah.
It took me a bloody while. But she was sat down there, so I went down there, noticed she hadn't spotted me, went round the back, leant in over the shoulder and went, what's a pretty little thing like you doing in a place like this? Which was shortly followed by the bloke next to her turning and going, what the fuck was that? I'd actually done it as an Irishman. Never in my life would that happen again. Sorry, go on. It's just awful timing. Worst timing ever.
So, There's a theory that somewhere along the line that you could actually get paid to podcast, but through advertisement.
And the plot thickens as to the origin of this whole endeavour.
Oh no!
I thought this was a personal growth exercise. It is a money grabbing bastard.
It is a personal growth exercise. However,
if someone wants to pay me thousands of dollars to personally grow,
if somebody were to pay you thousands of dollars to advertise something, and you were going to advertise that product because you believe in it. What product would you advertise?
Oh, Christ. Something I genuinely believe in.
Would it be Golden Virginia rolling tobacco?
I hate to say it.
Nescafe.
I don't think I wouldn't endorse any product particularly. I wouldn't be paid for it. I would happily stand as a spokesman to stop people from downing advertising of things. Advertising of tobacco and things, I can't see why the world is stopping it. We're fully aware of the risks. And yet we're still allowed to advertise the great time you can have from drinking too much, despite that family you ran over last week.
Yeah.
I have a real objection to the world's hate of tobacco, and I genuinely think if we don't stop them and let them advertise it and just put a nail in the coffin now, what the hell are they going to pick on when they've got rid of the smokers?
Yeah.
If you love your addiction, you should stand up for tobacco. I don't care if it killed your grandmother, and I don't care if it's killing me. I am aware of the risk. She was probably aware of the risk. The simple fact is we choose to smoke. Let us do it. Stop trying to pretend it doesn't exist. So no, I don't think I have any product I would be paid to advertise. If I genuinely believed in it, I don't think I want to be paid for it. If you had to pay me, then I obviously don't believe in it that hard.
If they could pay you in freebies, though.
Oh, I take it back. Golden Virginia. Golden Virginia all the way. Bricks of it. You know what? It's a really smooth brand. It's easy to roll. Just the right amount of moisture. It goes into it just lines up beautifully. I can't encourage it enough. Golden Virginia, give me free stuff. Wait, no. Nintendo Wii's. They're on sale. They're going cheap. We could buy them. Oh, the Wii, and then we could play them. Nintendo, give me free stuff. I hope half your listeners, if there are, depending how many there are, get that reference.
At this point in time, if they didn't get that reference, we're a bit lost because I think pretty much every single podcast I've done has had some reference.
We've only had 3 in this so far. I think we're doing well.
Yeah, that's not too bad. So there we go. That's our podcast. My podcast.
I like how you asked. You opened this with a question of: is there anything you don't want to bridge? Your questions were surprisingly tame based on that warning.
It's one of those that the
I thought you were going to topic religion or sex or something really taboo.
The weirdest experience of all this podcasting stuff is the people that you go to and say, "Hey, I'm doing a podcast. Do you want to come on it?" and the different reactions that you get from that. So there are people that I fully expected to ask, and their answer would be, "Hell no." There are people I fully expected to ask, and their answer would be, "Hell yeah." There's this middle ground of these people that I go, I don't suppose you fancy doing a podcast, and it's the people you expect to say no that go, oh, actually, yeah, I'd like to do that, versus the people that you
Where
expect.
did I fit in this? I'm curious.
Unfortunately, I fully expected that you'd be all over it, so when you went, no, I was like, what?
I stand by. I don't think I'm the sort of person people should listen to.
Mine and Paul's podcast towards the back end has a very long conversation about how you would be the perfect person to be on a podcast. And I was like, oh, and the next day I said to you, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? No, I'm all right, thanks. Okay. So it was nice that you were able to come around to my way of thinking as all people.
I will happily join in these things.
The plan is to do the next, what's known as the Whiskey and Cigar Night, which is our kind of monthly get together where we drink and smoke cigars.
I would like to point out that largely this thing takes around them lot drinking, usually not whiskey, it's a beer of some sort, and me standing outside smoking on my own.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that out there.
But
Whiskey and Cigar Night tends to orientate around me with the whiskey and the cigar. Yeah. It's why it's only singular.
Whiskey and Cigar Night.
It's only in singular.
But the plan is to look at actually recording the next one, so that I think that'll be quite an interesting one to do. So you'll be part of that, and after the success of this one, I'd always like to offer the people the chance to come back. Next time we might have to have some more of the risque conversations.
I'm just going to smile and nod. I like to think I'm an open book if you ask the right question.
There we go. That's the podcast. Thank you very much for joining me on this podcast, Edward. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Your impressions were exceptional. And I'd love to have you back at another point.
Thank you very much, I guess.
Thank you very much. That's it. Bye-bye. So there you go. What do you think to that? Good impressions, weren't they? I really like that bit. So that's part 2 done. Edward Dench. Hopefully be able to get Ed back on at some point and get another conversation going. Give us a shout and tell us what you think. Our Facebook page, Cookiecast. Our Twitter, @CookieCastPod. Shout us on our email. Tell us what you're liking. Tell us what you're not liking. Cookiecast.pod@gmail.com. And then there's the Instagram. Yeah, we'll get there with that at some point. Send us a picture and we'll put it on our Instagram account. Tune in next time for another fantastic episode of Cookiecast. But until then, bye-bye.